Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Klöckner, Gisbert Rühl. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand of applause. Welcome.
Yeah, hello everybody, and thanks for the invitation here to Zurich. We are, by the way, we have also a strong presence here in Switzerland, so I'm relatively often here in Switzerland, our headquarters is not in Zurich, it's in St. Gallen. Yeah, we as Klöckner, we are I'm coming, as you can see, from a very conservative industry. I'm coming from the steel industry, and you might ask yourself, what the hell is a guy from the steel industry doing in such a fancy conference, on such a forward-looking conference? Yeah, the reason is that we, at Klöckner, started also a very intensive digital transformation about 4 years ago. And the reason why we started is that was on the one side the inefficiency in our industry. So we are a steel distributor. We typically buying steel from the big steel producers, and then we servicing the steel, and then we distributing the steel to customers from the automotive industry, appliances, construction, machinery, mechanical engineering, and also to small craftsmen, so to all kind of companies who are using steel in a way. And this supply chain, where we are, by the way, we are having 60% of our business here in Europe and 40% in North America, and then we have a small subsidiary also in Brazil, but the supply chain is everywhere the same, is everywhere very inefficient. And because of this, we have to stock a lot of steel. We're stocking also locally a lot of steel in our warehouses, on our service centers, because we don't know what our customers, especially our customers, need tomorrow. And because we don't know what they need, we have to stock all the steel. And 4 years ago, we were thinking, what if this supply chain would be much more efficient? What if there would be a seamless information flow in this supply chain? What if there were more predictive sales information, for instance? Then we will probably don't need a significant part of our business, the stockholding business. We probably don't need this business anymore. And with this, I went first, as so many, not at that point in time, but meanwhile, of my colleagues to the Silicon Valley. And I had a lot of very interesting discussions in the Valley with people like Mark Andreessen, Jim Breyer, with Alex Karp, and so on. And then very motivated because of my visit, I went back to Germany, and then I tried to start this innovation, also this, to a certain extent, disruptive innovation. I tried to start this from within. And this failed. This failed completely because we, as a steel distribution company, were on the one side not that innovative anyhow, and we had difficulties to think out of the box. And especially, we had difficulties to think about disrupting ourselves. And then with this, I went to Berlin. And in Berlin, I made a startup tour, and there were 2 events which were very important for the future of Klöckner. One was I visited a company called Adventure, and when I came into the meeting room, there were a lot of notes everywhere, and I asked the guys, what does this mean? What have you done here? And they were saying, look, we wanted to prepare for this meeting. And we know that you coming from steel as a steel distributor, and we gave a call to some of the general customers of the steel distribution industry. And we figured out then where the pain points are when they do business with you. And this was something we had never done. So I also made a lot of visits, or still making a lot of visits to customers. But I often asking questions like, "Are you happy with us?" and so on and so on. But we didn't really try to find out where really the pain points are when they doing business with us. So that was the first very important meeting. And then later on, during this tour, I went to a co-working space. I had never been until that point in time in a co-working space. And we went through this co-working space with the founders. And then there was one table was free. And then I asked one of the founders, "What does this table cost per month?" And she said, €1,000. And I said, "Okay, I'm renting this table." And then I gave a call to two of my, in this case, younger colleagues. And I said to them, "Look, on Monday, you have a new working place. You can leave your tie at home. Your new working place is in Berlin. It's in a co-working space, 3rd floor. And there's a table, and this is your working place for the next few months. And you first of all have to connect us to this startup world in Berlin. And secondly, you have to find out what startups doing different." And this is also was also a very important learning for us, because they working completely different than corporates. So when we doing a project, when we initiating a project, we typically make a big system analysis. We made sure that we don't forget anything. And this, by the way, also how we developed our first online shop. We tried not to forget anything, and then we started to program, and it takes time, and was, by the way, in this case also not successful, because the customers didn't like the web shop, and we really also hadn't asked them before. So we asked them later on when the web shop was ready. So typically how you do it in the corporate, and then we learned that these guys from the startup team, that they working completely different. That they starting first with the customer, with this customer ideation, that then they're coming back with a prototype, and that the first product is a minimal viable product, so not a product which has everything, a product only with minimum features, and so on and so on. But it was also clear that when we want to do the same, this will not work within our headquarters, for instance, in Duisburg. Impossible. And that's why we then established or founded a company in Berlin called Klöckner.ai. And meanwhile, we have here more than 60 employees. We have developers, we have online marketing people, we have business and analytics people. So it's if you like, our own startup. And only 4 of these people coming from the corporate, and the remaining people are all coming from various startup companies. So with this setup, in the beginning we had less employees, of course. With this setup, then we started our innovation. And we started also in this hub to develop the first products. But then, at some point in time, after a couple of months, it was getting clear that this company is probably a bit too independent. So what we did in the beginning, we made clear that this Klöckner.ai hub should be very, very independent from the corporate. So even also technological decisions and everything have to be made by this hub by itself. But then on the other side, when you're doing this completely independent, then, and this is what we figured out then, on both sides, by the way, also the people in Berlin figured this out. In this case, we are then not able to leverage what we have. And we have the industry know-how, and we have the customer and supplier relationships. And therefore, we then started to move this hub a bit closer to the corporate, not in a way that we integrated it in a corporate, but closer to the corporate. So, and we made sure that collaboration took place between Klöckner.ai and the corporate itself. And after some while, this went then relatively well and works better and better, I have to say. We had a certain fear concerning the cultural clash, but the cultural clash, interestingly, didn't happen, because the people in Berlin, when they went to the corporate side, they were asking questions, like startups typically doing it. So corporates are always trying to tell something, and startups asking questions. And they're asking a lot of questions, and the people on the other side, so on the corporate side, feel very comfortable because they were saying, look, this was for the first time that there were not people coming who know everything better. They asking us how we do our business and what we could do better in our point of view. So the collaboration worked then very well. But then we had another problem. We developed all these front-end tools, online shops, contract platforms, and so on for our customers. And but then we figured out that only developing all these front-end tools also doesn't work when the back-end is also not digitalized and when the people on the corporate side not really supporting these new systems. One example, when you have a sales guy on the one side and on the other side there's a purchasing guy, and when they are both not convinced that this is the right step into the future, then they will not support this. But they fear, of course, to support this because they fear to lose their job in the end. So you also have to make sure that your employees understand this not only rationally, that is not enough. And you also have to make sure that they are supporting this emotionally. And we did this by, for instance, by establishing a digital academy. So our people within Klöckner have the right to do digital courses on this academy during working hours, unlimited. And what we were saying to them is, look, when you're doing this, we will make sure that you have a future within Klöckner. Whatever happens, also with artificial intelligence and whatever happens, but we will make sure that you have a future going forward. We also started to communicate in a different way. Traditionally, we, of course, had the same problem than all corporates, that communication from top to the bottom is very difficult and takes very long. And here, this was, by the way, by chance. So I think it was about 3 years ago, my head of IT came to me and was saying, look, we have now Office 365, and with this we have Yammer. And I said, what is Yammer? And he said, this is some kind of an internal Facebook. And I said, yeah, and what can we do with this? He said, yeah, we can open it. I said, you opened it. And he opened it. And meanwhile, this is the main communication tool within our organization. So we have a hierarchy-free communication. And I'm able now to communicate, for instance, with salespeople which I even don't know, in various countries directly. So we have much better top-down and bottom-up communication, and also a much better horizontal communication between all the sites. So we have 170 sites in Europe and North America, and there was no communication between the sites before. And now we have all this horizontal communication. So I would say without the possibility to communicate with all the employees, also this change would not have been successful in our organization. So this works also meanwhile pretty good. So we started, but we needed to do more, by the way. We needed to do more. For instance, failure culture is also something which is extremely difficult to implement in a traditional corporate, because what you learn when you want to make a career in a corporate is, of course, not to make any failures. And now all of a sudden we're saying to these guys, to the people, look, you can also make failures. And even also here again, when they understand this rationally, also this is not enough. So they also have to learn this emotionally, and this is the reason why we started Fuckup nights. I know what Fuckup nights are. Huh? I'm surprised. Yeah, we have Fuckup nights. Yeah, yeah. So we started Fuckup nights. So our people were also a bit disoriented when I was saying through Yammer. All of a sudden, now we're starting Fuckup nights. But I explained what this is. So Fuckup nights is also something we learned in Berlin. that takes once a month or so, and then founders who failed are telling potential founders or new founders why they failed, and this is very successful, and the people, especially new founders in Berlin, like this very much. And I thought, okay, maybe we do the same. So we started then the first Fuckup nights. I did the first Fuckup, by the way, and now we implementing this also throughout the organization to learn to fail. But of course only when we innovate. So this is also something which you of course have to make clear. Failure culture doesn't mean that you can now make failures everywhere. Now, when you are working for Swiss, for instance, it may be not as good to make a failure when you do your maintenance of a plane, of an airplane or so, and when you're working for an electricity company, might be also not that good when you have doing failures by maintenance of nuclear power plants. But okay, this is something we explained our people, and now because I think without this failure culture, it will not be. It's not possible to innovate. So this is at least also something we learned. So we now, with this setup in Berlin, with this more than 60 people, by the way, I'm also the CEO of this hub in Berlin. That makes it much easier to make decisions, and because I'm on both sides. But with this setup, we developed all the proprietary online shops, platforms, and so on to do online business with our customers. So in August, we did already 70% of our sales online. So we more than doubled this within 1 year. But now we are at a very important point, because we had from the beginning not only the idea to do more online business. We wanted finally develop an open industry platform, a platform where all market participants are connected, and that means also our competitors. And this is, by the way, also something which is really not easy to communicate into an organization, saying that the competitors of today are customers of the platform tomorrow. But it's also clear this will only work when this new setup is much, much more independent than Klöckner.ai in Berlin. Finally, Klöckner will have only a minority stake in this new setup. But we believe in this open platform because finally, when you think it from the customer point of view, then it's of course the optimum for the customer is when they have access to one platform, and through this platform that they can then make price comparisons and whatever through this platform, that they have access to all kind of distributors. But this platform will also be, no doubt about, to a certain extent cannibalize our sales on the physical side again. For instance, with this platform, there are probably producers will have the possibility to do more direct sales to our customers. So cut the middleman. We are the middleman in this case. So we're cutting to a certain extent our business here by ourselves. But on the other hand, we feel as Klöckner, because we started digitalization so early, we feel also well prepared to compete in the online world with all our marketing, online marketing knowledge, and with all the business analytics knowledge we have and so on. We feel very comfortable that we will be here successful. But it's difficult to say how this is going to work going forward. But from a customer's point of view, such a platform, especially in fragmented industries, such platforms will come going forward. I have no doubt that this will be the case. And in our case, we then want to at least have a significant share on this platform. So that's where we are today. And yeah, maybe this now from my side. And I understand that we also want to have a Q&A session here. And now I'm open for your questions. Thank you.
Very much. I got to say, I was very surprised.
Thank you.
The one thing I was not expecting was fuck-up nights in a traditional industry such as the steel industry. I mean, that is something I was like, wow, really? I mean, congratulations, seriously, on taking that initiative, because that's something that even many companies that are very innovative that don't do that. And that somebody like you guys in the steel industry is doing that is actually quite incredible to see that it really transcends industry, both traditional and more modern. So I want to ask, how many of you guys actually have a fuck-up night in your company? Yeah, and how many of you guys work at startups and innovative companies? Yeah, okay, so he's ahead of you guys, so catch up. But folks, I want to open the round to questions. Who's actually working in an industry that would be considered more traditional? Yeah? So where do you guys see potential for improvement, and maybe some questions that you could ask him in terms of what he's learned and what recommendations you could get from him? Because, I mean, steel is probably what I would consider one of the very traditional industries. I mean, it doesn't get very much more traditional than that. So I want to open up the round of questions. Do we? Oh, here we go. This is a steel girder.
And could I get my water? Please?
Oh yes, bring up some water too. So, who wants to ask the first question? Maybe regarding, how to start a fuck-up nights at your companies. That's a good one to start with. Okay, this is not steel, by the way.
Too soft for us.
The Klöckner edition is too hard to throw.
I was wondering, you mentioned Yammer that you implemented into the organization. How big is your organization?
So we have about 9,000 employees. And
the follow-up question would be, how do you guys try to control the communication between the teams, or how do you make sure that they communicate effectively and not use it in terms of just for entertainment?
Yeah, interestingly, we don't control anything. So that's so everyone can open a group or so. And but what I clearly can say is that our employees are using it not for entertainment by themselves. So that was from the beginning. That went relatively well, and okay, they posting when there is someone is a 25th anniversary or something like this. This has been posted, but no photos, for instance, from their holidays or so on. That is really not happening. Interestingly, so they using it in a way that all this. What I also heard from other companies who wanna start with Yammer, that they have the fear that employees doing something with Yammer what doesn't happen, but it's not happening. This is interestingly the case. It's not happening. So we don't control anything, and everyone can do anything on Yammer.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other questions? Maybe regarding the incubator. So you started a second company in Berlin that's grown to 60 people. How long did it take for you guys to reach 60 people? I mean, how quickly did you grow?
So we founded this company, I think, 2.5 years ago.
Okay, wow.
And it was, interestingly, is the question how to get people to come, even if it's called .I, so Klöckner.I, but everyone knows, okay, it's part of a steel company. And how to get innovative people into such kind of company. And there, from the beginning, the startup scene in Berlin were looking what we are doing, because when we started in this co-working space, we of course were also something which typically is
very unique.
Yeah, it's very unique for a co-working space, having a steel company in a co-working space. So then a lot of media interest came and so on, and then our people joining Klöckner are people who coming mostly from B2C and who want to do something different and who want to get in touch with B2B. So they are interested in really what we're doing, but you of course have to make sure that this hub is working is like a startup. They also want to have quick decisions and so on, because otherwise they will leave. So when it would be too much corporate, then they would leave. So keeping this balance is not easy between collaboration with the corporate, but not be integrated into the corporate. This is very difficult, and it might be easier in this case because I'm the CEO of both, so I can handle this too. But you have to handle this.
So you're really the person who's kind of making the bridge. I mean, you lead both companies from the top in that case to kind of bring that out there. And did you see it harder to find talent at the beginning, or do you think it's easier now that you've kind of established a presence and you say, hey guys, look, we've done so many cool things. We have a lot of independence, but we have this large company behind us that is actually backing us. So we're not building a cat video sharing app. We're actually building something that is changing, physical services industry.
In principle, it's more easier now, but the only bottleneck are developers. But this is in general the problem in Berlin currently to get developers. But we're trying to hire them from everywhere. So we have 60 people out of 14 nations.
40, okay.
So people from Brazil, people from Israel. And so our new CTO funds comes from Israel, and so we try to get hire these people from everywhere.
Perfect. I want to open up the round to some questions again. Yeah, in the back. I love that box. It's just.
I wonder, how did you yourself as a person manage to make this movement from corporate to startup thinking, or still wearing both hats now?
You mean, well, I'm looking very much like a corporate guy, yeah. But by the way, when I'm in Berlin, I'm also typically have a suit and a tie, and to be honest, that is no problem at all. So when I would come there in jeans or so, they might be a bit disoriented. And I'm also I'm knowing a lot of founders in Berlin, and sometimes I'm also invited, let's say, to a pizza meeting of a startup and to on Friday afternoon to make a speech or so. And but also then I don't change my clothes. I think this is important, that you have to be yourself, and then people are taking you serious. But to be honest, I don't have any from the beginning. I don't have any issues with the culture in Berlin. And what I tried from the beginning is, and I think meanwhile this works, but this also took some time. I would say about 2 years. I tried to implement some of this culture also on the corporate side, but meanwhile we have some, for instance, also a program where people from the corporate side can go 3 months to Berlin to work in this startup. So there is a lot of collaboration, and when the people on the corporate side have any meetings concerning this online tools, they typically invite the startup people meanwhile by themselves. And our labor council is, for instance, once a year when they have their meeting in Berlin in this startup environment. They also made a startup tour in the past and so on. So I always try to make sure that it's then integrated that there is collaboration, but at the same time I have to make sure that they're staying independent. So they still they're still working in another cloud than we working on the corporate side or so on. They're still making their own technological decisions and so on. This hasn't changed.
But I mean, how did you manage as a person to allow failure, to not follow processes, and to decide by yourself, I'm going to support this?
Yeah, I also had to a certain extent, change myself. So I went also to, I would say, a change process, but because this, I was convinced from the beginning that this is the right way. So I'm in corporates since 30 years. And since 30 years, I had all these projects which took more time, which more costly, which were complex, which always it was always we had always this difficult situation that nothing really worked like we wanted it. And when I learned how, so the most important learning was, I think, this minimal viable product. That was my most important learning. And from the beginning, I was convinced that this is the right way. And when I'm also on the corporate side, when I'm doing something today, I'm always thinking, what is the MVP? What is really necessary, and what doesn't make any sense? But you have to change yourself too. So I'm not the youngest anymore, but even if you're getting older, you still can change yourself. When you are convinced from something, I think this is, of course, important.
What sparked that interest? Because you say you're a corporate guy, but I think in many, many ways you're actually a startup guy in a suit right now. So I think I just want to point that out. Right? I mean, like there's guys in suits, there's guys in flip flops. A friend of mine, he went to work one time in a bathrobe. This is in the Silicon Valley. But I mean, like that's one side. But I mean, what really brought you that point when you woke up one day and you're like, you know what? I think I need to do something different. I think we need to do something different. What kind of sparked that idea?
So look, when you are like me, 30 years. So I was always in very conservative environments. So our machinery industry, automotive industry, steel, coal, even coal in the coal mining and things like that. But you're always seeing how inefficient everything is. And all of a sudden, and when you then all of a sudden comes an idea how you really can do things different and much more easy, much less complex. This is what convinced me from the beginning, and this is what was also driving to a certain extent to change or my personal change.
Thank you very much. I want to open it back up to some more questions. I saw some. Yep, just throw it there. Ooh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. My question was, why create your own platform if there can already be some enterprise, generic, white label platforms out there?
Yeah, I think so. For B2B, there is no platform which we can easily take for the steel and metals industry, and I think also other successful B2C platforms are all proprietary. So far, Amazon is also a proprietary platform, and this is what we learned also, that we need our own technology stack finally, and that's the reason why we do it by ourselves.
And
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, please bring the follow up.
and then, well, not using a platform, but maybe a third party, already a consulting company that can create the platform for you.
Yeah,
this is normally the norm in corporate world.
Yeah, we also. So I think so. When we started, we worked closely together with a company called Adventure, and they developed for us the first tools. Mm-hmm. And this was also the right way to do, I think, because we were not able in the beginning to do this. But then, but that was clear from the beginning. So I would say, roughly 1 year later, we then started to transform this to our people. So we then started to employ developers and so on, and then we transformed the knowledge and the technology to our people. And I think finally, when you want to build such a big platform, it's very difficult, I think, when this has been done from someone from outside.
Good. Perfect. Yep. Go ahead.
Hello. I was wondering, what kind of Chinese wall do you have between the two entities? Or does the data transfer between the two entities work? Because I suppose you don't want to have your industrial secrets from the core corporate business to go to the other more technological entity that you founded. So is there a protocol, a technical one, a legal one? Is that more organically organized?
So there are practically no Chinese walls between Klöckner and Klöckner.ai. So we transfer. So we are on the corporate side. We have SAP. So but we all what we developing is not directly connected to SAP. So we have kind of a tunnel where we exchange the data. But of course there will be some kind of wall now with this new setup, with the independent platform company. And there we then have to decide, like other participants on the platform, which data we share and what we're getting from sharing the data. And the principal idea is a bit, the more data you sharing, the more information you're getting back. And when someone wants to be on the platform, or when someone on the platform doesn't want to share anything, okay, then he's getting also predictive data, predictive sales in a region or whatever, predictive demand and all things which will be provided finally by the platform.
But are you rather thinking of technical solutions or more like discretionary decisions, decide which will go where?
Yeah, both. No? So we will have to make the decisions, but we also need technical solutions to handle it on the platform finally. But because we then have to handle it when the platform is successful for thousands and thousands of customers.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I saw some other question just a little bit further back.
Thank you. What do you do with the data from your platform from the competitors? Do you use the data from your competitors on the platform?
No, on the platform. So we currently on this proprietary platform it's easy. We are the seller, and then we have all we have of course the customer data. But this is something we had also in the past, but we did not really anything in the past with this data. And but on the platform will be finally independent. So Klöckner is not getting access to the data. So that is part of the platform business. Now Klöckner will finally have a stake in the platform, but Klöckner will not dominant, and Klöckner will have also no real influence in this platform, because the strategy of the platform finally is not necessarily aligned with the Klöckner strategy. Could also move in different ways. But we have to keep it independent, because otherwise it would be, of course, difficult to get other competitors on the platform. But this will also be realized by other investors in this platform. So from the beginning, we will be, by the way, from the beginning. So when we took the first investors to the platform, we then want to be already minority shareholder of the platform.
Yep, please go ahead.
Yeah, a question about the Fuckup night. How would you stimulate people to climb on a stage and explain their failure?
Yeah, that's obviously not easy. So we did the first Fuckup night in a way that I was starting with the first failure, and then we had two guests, one from a startup and one from another company, and that was the first time. And then what we experience is that not all of the people will tell, all of our people are able to tell their fuck-ups. So these are typically people, I would say, who are successful enough and have self-confidence and they doing it, but not everyone. But we don't force also anyone to do it. But with this, it works.
Perfect, thank you. We have time for one or two more questions. We'll toss it back to the middle here. Right, straight ahead, down your row. Touchdown.
Hello. I was wondering how you manage the cultural change of Klöckner in behalf of resistance. I can imagine that you have managers in your team that are very successful but very resistant to that change. And I think you cannot fire them so easily, like we have heard before. But you have to balance there a lot of things. I wonder how do you manage that?
Yeah. Also on level 1 and 2, we did a management appraisal, and the result of the management appraisal was indeed that most of our management was good to to go with the company straight ahead, to do what we did in the past. And only some had the ability to drive change. Some were a bit neutral, but we also had some who are not interested in change anyhow. But these people are no more with the company. But I'm saying this also clearly, I have to say, to our employees. I'm saying, so everyone who wants to be with us is getting our support and our help. Also with this digital academy, but it's give and take. But when there are employees who don't want this, who don't want to have this change, they are probably better off with another company. I'm saying that also quite clearly. I think you always have to do both. You have to be clear to your people, but you have to give them also support if they want to go with you, if they want to drive this change.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think that's it for the question round. Thank you very much. I really want a big hand of applause. Seriously.
Thank you.
Can we? Perfect. Now we're also going to send you back. We're getting you ready for Friday with a nice Friday bag and a headset to go with that as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Really glad to have you here, and thank you very much. Another round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks.